Mao Zedong was born on December 26, 1893 in Shaoshan, Hunan Province. He was the son of a former peasant and he worked full-time on a farm at 13 years. In Hunan, he was enlisted in the Revolutionary Army and he spent 6 months as a soldier. During the May 4th movement of 1919, he was at Peking University and he supported student protesters. During July of 1920, he attended the first Congress for the Chinese Communist Party. He is one of their founders. It was organized during 1921 by a group in Shanghai. In 1925, when Sun Yat-sen died, Jiang Jieshi was in charge of the Kuomintang. Since many of Jiang's followers were people involved in business, they did not support the communist agenda of creating an economy after the USSR. Nationalist troops and armed gangs went into Shanghai and then killed many communist leaders and trade union members. The nationalists almost wiped out the Chinese Communist Party. Mao believed that peasantry was not a force to be taken lightly. Mao's goal was to bring revolution to the rural areas, instead of the focus being the cities, like Lenin. In 1930, the nationalists and communists were fighting a civil war that would last until 1949. When Jiang got an army of 1 million soldiers, the communists decided to retreat, beginning the Long March. In this march, the communists were just barely in front of Jiang's forces. This chase lasted more than a year, with about 100,000 people in the march. While this war was still going on, Japan had invaded China. The invasion in Manchuria, an industrialized province in northeastern China, started World War II in Asia. In 1937, the Japanese attempted to do an all-out invasion of China. This created a truce between the nationalists and communists to fight the Japanese. When World War II ended, the two opposing parties resumed their civil war. In 1945, the communist forces controlled a significant amount of northern China. They got the peasants' loyalty because of their efforts to teach literacy and to boost food production. At the beginning of the renewed war, the Nationalist Army outnumbered the Communist Army 3-1. Still, they did not do much to win popular support, and thousands of their soldiers deserted to the other side since the Chinese economy was collapsing. In October 1949, Mao had control of the country. It was proclaimed the People's Republic of China. Mao set off to base China's economy on Marxist socialism. He seized the holdings of the landlords that owned most of the land, since 10% of the population controlled 70% of the farmland. He enforced his policy heavily by having his forces kill more than 1 million landlords that resisted. Additionally, Mao made the peasants join collective farms. Many aspects of life were sponsored by the state, including childcare. All private companies were brought under state ownership. In 1956, Mao had the 100 Flowers Bloom policy, which allowed some criticism and suggestions. Mao expected mild criticism, but thousands spoke against the government system. Thousands of people were put into prison since they did not agree. In 1958, Mao had an ambitious program called the Great Leap Forward, which created larger collective farms called communes. The average commune covered about 15,000 acres. Life in the communes was very strict, and people did almost everything together. Private property was non-existent, and peasants were sorted into production battalions. The Great Leap Forward turned out to be unsuccessful due to poor planning and crop failures. These crop failures triggered a famine that killed about 20 million people. The Great Leap Forward stopped in 1961. After the Great Leap Forward failed, Mao encouraged young people in high schools and colleges to learn revolution by making revolution. Many left their classrooms and formed a militia force called the Red Guards. This started the Cultural Revolution. Artistic and intellectual activity was looked down upon. Learning institutions were shut down and intellectuals had to purify themselves with intensive labor. That year, Mao suffered 2 heart attacks, and a third on September 5th rendered him unresponsive. He died on September 9th, 1976.
His death was mourned throughout China, and many people grieved for the fall of their leader. Even now, some of China sees him as a savior to the nation and a political genius. He is praised for unifying China and helping to rapidly grow China's economy. Some people even credit him for raising the country's life expectancy. Due to his emphasis on self-reliance and rapid industrialization, he was able to lay a solid foundation for China's future development. Today, there are many monuments within China dedicated to his memory.